So we are now joined by William Collins, a national security law attorney. Thank you so much for joining us here on TVP World.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Sir, thank you very much. Now, so Nicaragua argues that the German government is furthering genocide in Gaza. What is your take on this in general? Where do you think this is going? How long is this going to take to prove Germany that it's actually taking part in genocide?
Well, unfortunately for Germany, I expect this, like many other international court cases, is going to take several years to come out. I mean, this is really depending upon the outcome of the South African case that was filed in December of 2023. And that case as well is expected to take probably several years before any type of final outcome arrives from it. Nicaragua is basing its actions upon a finding of plausibility, which your previous speaker already mentioned about. And that is merely establishing whether or not there's grounds to even go forward with the case. It's not a finding of genocide. It's not a finding of any type of guilt in any part. It's, to use a legal reference, it would be like a finding of probable cause at a preliminary hearing to decide whether or not there's even evidence to go forward with the case to actually decide the matter. Mm-hmm. Right. So this is in the very early stages of being reviewed, and right now there's a lot of just lawfare going on right now between the parties, trying to advance their positions by trying to assert legal precedents that don't actually exist.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's also, I mean, on an international level, international law level, legal language, it's so complicated and also so delicate. I think that's why this case, I think, is treading on such thin ice, and especially for Germany. I think Germany's Staatsräson, as one of the, reasons for existence in German transits, is about the support of Israel. And I think that goes very, very deep into what Germany is. Now, I think it's... tell us this thing, because from a perspective as well, I mean, the Germans are now getting this, I would call it, an accusation, a claim by Nicaragua, but they're not the largest supporter by any means of arms to Israel. Now, granted, they are providing, I believe, around 300 million euros worth of and I think it's very symbolic, but I mean, are they being thrown under the bus legally here rather than Nicaragua or other countries, South Africa, going after the United States, for instance?
I think you're right. The United States is, I believe, the largest supporter of Israel in terms of provision of arms and foreign aid.
Germany is second, actually.
Right. So I think the choice of Germany is very much a tactical one and a political one, because there's this probably perceived vulnerability with Germany's history with this Nazi era, and the Commission of the Holocaust, to try and align Germany with this view and malign it, that is somehow not recovered from that period and is still supporting acts of terror or genocide. Mm-hmm.
Now, Nicaragua asked the court to issue emergency orders saying that as a party to the Genocide Convention, Germany must immediately suspend military aid to Israel and ensure that its supplies already in the country are not unlawfully used. Now, you being a lawyer, is that possible? Can they do that? Can Germany just suspend it and Israel would not be able to use its weapons from now on, from whenever they would suspend it?
In theory, yes. I mean, we've seen that in the case of Ukraine, where Switzerland put restrictions on what of its weapons could or could not be supplied to Ukraine by a second party who had purchased those weapons from Switzerland. So even though the weapons were in the possession of another country for full use for their own purposes, Switzerland put provisions in it that stated that they could not be used without their consent for provision to Ukraine. Mm-hmm. So in theory, it's possible. I think it's a unusual or outrageous request on the part of Nicaragua without even establishing that genocide even has transpired yet. Mm-hmm. But that's what they're going for. They're trying to swing for the fences and win more of a political battle than really a legal battle here.
Yeah, speaking of the legal battle, I want to delve a little bit into this, pardon my interest in this from a legal perspective. I mean, if we look at Article 2 of the Genocide Convention of 1948, that describes genocide as a crime committed with the intent to destroy a national, ethnic, racial religious group. Now, I think the important thing here is the intent part, right? And I think that's the key here, because if we also look at timing, when does this start? Is this October 7th? Is this, in the last few weeks? And I think that will be hard to prove. But I think on this intent structure, what do you make of this legally? Does Israel, in your mind, did it show this element of intent if we define genocide through this Article 2 of the Convention?
Well, I think you're spot on in pointing out to the issue of intent. And, that's Israel's defense in a nutshell, is that Israel's actions in the current operations in Gaza are a direct response to a genocidal event that took place in their country on October 7th. The Nicaragua and the Palestinians are going to argue that this is somehow related to the last 50 years of Palestinian-Israeli relations. And that's not the case at all. You have to try and take things in the proper perspective. And this current action was a direct response to October 7th. And a lot of the global South is ignoring that right now. Nicaragua, South Africa, and so forth are trying to put this into context where they can put it into their own perceptions of North-South struggles between the global North and the global South.
So it will take years for the court to prove Germany that it's doing its wrongs. Now, also it's also very interesting to me that Nicaragua hired a German lawyer to argue Germany's involvement in the case, which I think is a very, well, I would say, bold and smart move. What is your take on that?
Again, it's all about the optics. They want to try and impugn Germany, so if they can retain a German lawyer to say his own country is in the wrong, that in their perspective, try and make their case look all the much stronger if someone who's a German is willing to, take this action against their own nation.
I wonder if he will get any backlash from Germany.
Well, I mean, it's such a delicate thing, isn't it? And I think, as you said already, in terms of establishing timing and establishing intent, various forms. I mean, these legal cases are not going to be done quickly. Just closing point, why in this case, particular reason, why Nicaragua is putting this forward? I mean, you can understand maybe Ireland, South Africa to an extent, but why Nicaragua? Just closing point there.
Well, I think it spreads out the involvement of the global South. Now you're bringing in the continent of South America into the matter. Nicaragua has also had, close ties with the previous communist regimes of Russia and China. So, I mean, I think there's definitely a pre-existing relationship that ties them to, a more global approach to this in terms of the alignment of Germany and China, Iran and North Korea in current attempts to reshape the international world order. One thing I would like to point out, though, if by some chance this case is successful and the court rules against Germany, it would set a very interesting precedent that perhaps the United States or any other nation involved in supporting Ukraine could bring against Iran or North Korea, who are supplying arms to Russia, which itself is engaged in an act of genocide. And currently the head of Russia, Vladimir Putin, is pending charges before the international court. So it would be interesting if they won, what the greater ramifications might be in relation to Russia, which I don't think has been fully delved into yet.
Or also, I think the case of, where Canada stopped its shipments to weapons, but both Canada and other countries still shipping weapons to Saudi Arabia, also potentially, I think, in need of some reassessment of their use of weapons against the Yemenis. So many, many more legal questions. We won't solve it now. We'll have to conclude it there. Thank you so much. William Collins there, national security law attorney. Appreciate your insights.
Thank you, sir, very much. And
My
for
pleasure.
sure,
Thank you very much.